Thank you all for coming to my breakout session. My talk is on how to secure smarter, not harder, creating physical security, a step-by-step guide. Is there any DSU alumni in here? Nice, go Trojans. You might recognize the name here. We got, come on, there it is. We got Dr. Kyle Cronin, great professor when I was there during my time. One thing he said that has always stuck with me is physical access is total access. And I wasn't even in the security industry there. I was just a standard network administrator guy, handling emails. You can have the best firewall and zero trust software that money can buy, but if the bad guy can just walk into your place of work, all of that is for naught. Little bit about me quick. Like I said, I'm DSU. My name's Aaron Zilla. I'm the Senior Physical Security Engineer and Foreman of a four-man crew out of our Colorado offices with certifications in Axis and Genetech. And don't tell the Axis guy here, my Axis cert's expired a couple months ago, and I'm renewing it in November. I believe somebody from the South Dakota Board of Regents was here too, so go Trojans again. My primary role with HiPoint is I sit with customers and I establish their goals and then do the design process. Here are some recent designs I did. That's a park, and this was a 4-story building in a city. So I sit with the customer and determine what their needs are, and then I design the system, and then I do revisions and revisions and revisions. And sometimes by the 7th revision, we might have a system that we're good to pull the trigger on. In today's session, the primary goal is to share the building blocks of any security system in a scalable approach for those eyeing new setups or expanding existing ones. The top 2 questions to keep in mind is, what are my security needs as a business owner or decision maker? Or what are our current pain points in an existing security system? Now, this isn't a dedicated sales pitch. As an engineer, it is my duty to set expectations and assist in the sales process. And HiPoint Networks deals exclusively in Axis and Genetech products. But a lot of the concepts here are system agnostic. Just note that certain features are relegated to Axis products because those are the cameras that we use. So when I talk about some of the features, definitely going to be Axis. Let's start by expanding on these 2 questions and build a plan for establishing our system. You want to identify your requirements, identify your restrictions. You want to work with what your goals are. The success of any project is tied on how well you plan it out. Murphy's Law states that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Physical security is not exempt from this. If you want to hit your target, you need to define your target. Our first one is safety and security. You've got to assess your needs, who or what needs that security. Risk assessment, what are the existing risks to your staff or property? Think, outside safety. It may be inside where there's perpetrators coming into your place of work. Think inside safety. Is there hazardous machinery or chemicals in your place of work? For assets and data, are they easily accessible? Is there unprotected vehicle gates to your location? You have your planning steps. You want to conduct your site walkthrough. Spot your vulnerabilities and entry points, blind spots, prioritize high importance areas for your design focus, and document existing infrastructure. Check for network issues and physical vulnerabilities, even like loose door hinges. It's usually important as well to engage with your staff, security personnel, and your consultant to understand these priorities and concerns. Maybe a particular staff member has an anecdotal information or incident that can guide further discussion. Employee safety and security are the most important aspects of a physical security system. And then lastly, compliance. Does your plan create liability? Fire code is paramount for any access control system. Egress paths must stay clear for emergencies. You got to identify these routes and to streamline your design process. The doors on your building, are they fire rated? If so, then you need electronic strike hardware that is also fire rated that matches those ratings, lest you compromise your door's integrity. There's a bunch of free resources on fire code and always engage with your local fire marshals. They're the ones that will be checking on your installation, and they often will do site visits for free. So definitely check with your local resources there. Codes like fire code are there to protect us, and adhering to them limits the liability and fines. Always check with your industry regulations. You also have the opportunity for federal, state, county, and municipal codes. So especially if you're working in government or any utility industries, you have a lot of extra codes that guide how you can control your doors or what cameras you can have. The goal with all of this is the plan for scalability and compliance. Ensure from day one that you have a cost-effective system. Start small, maybe 1 or 2 cameras in critical areas, and then scale up later. Access reliability plus Genetec's centralization equals an easy growth system. To save on that budget as well, doing a phased approach helps save costs. Break up the implementation into smaller portions to make it a sustainable growth. Quick question. What would be a good key step to ensure scalability when doing a phased approach? Anybody got a guess? Good network. That's part of it for sure. Ooh, I like that one. This man just won the door prize. When you're doing a scaled system, the most important part is to build out your wish list. Build out the entire system. Add every layer that you want included so that when you decide what your phase 1 is going to be, it's do I need to upgrade my switches? Do I need to redo my wiring? Make sure that your core infrastructure is in place to support your future plans. Because otherwise you're double backing and you add 20% onto this phase and you're adding 30% onto this phase, trying to double back and make sure you're getting components that were missed in the initial design process. With those baseline questions, let's see the actual pieces of our physical security system. We've covered the who, the where, and the why, and now this is the what and the how parts. I like to break it into a couple different pillars, and first up, everybody knows this and immediately thinks of it when we talk physical security. We got cameras. Cameras are an extremely important pillar, but far too often seen as the only one when we talk physical security. The next is access control, controlling who goes where and being able to track those events. This being tied to your camera system, you can have images of people entering a location. Maybe John left his badge at home and lost it. This allows you, as the system or controller, to verify that the correct cardholder is entering your property. An overlooked pillar is light and audio, bringing that extra level of senses into your deterrence, into your security system. You've all seen a neighbor's driveway light up at night with movement, right? You have also heard automated messages at the airport. Leveraging these two senses in physical security can go a very long way to achieve higher levels of deterrence in most incidents. Now, how do these 3 systems work together? This is the next pillar. We've got automation. Okay, you have access control cameras. Maybe you're considering lights and audio. Automation brings it one step further, making all of these work together and interact. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see. I've got that demo board out on the floor out in our HiPoCON area. I have a lot of these systems all working together using the automation pillar of our security system. This allows you, it acts as like a force multiplier. You know, you have people sitting and maybe not even sitting and watching your cameras every day. This allows you to take those automated actions to help increase what this system is doing for you. And then the last pillar that I like to include, I call your other integrations. So how many of you guys have industrial control systems? So we got a couple people with industrial systems. SCADA systems or industrial control systems are almost always a completely offline system. But there's a few of our customers that I've worked with, it was an electrical utility, where we would get an analog system from SCADA, we would bring it into an analog input in the security system, and then when that security system saw that input, we could point a camera at a transformer that's overheating or malfunctioning. Maybe there's an error code, somebody unplugged a cable, and now that camera has a zoomed in clear image of what's going on that particular piece of machinery. That is your integrations pillar. When you're bringing these other things into your system. This also includes things with Genetec. You saw in the video during the keynote, Brink drones, that's an integration. Evolve weapons detection systems, you've probably seen those on stadiums or other places. We've brought that into Genetec. All of these other integrations, third-party or even analog inputs, can greatly impact how your security system operates. Now, there is one last component that I don't have as a pillar here because without it, the entire building crumbles. What's the last component to physical security? Well, no, infrastructure is important. Infrastructure is the base of everything. You need to make sure your switches and power is good. But there is one thing that can just blow the whole building down. Boom! People. Security awareness and training. Without appropriate awareness of your security posture, a single person can destroy your entire system. Metaphorically, of course. Bypass it. All right. I have a couple examples of tying a lot of these systems together. So let's say you have a camera, and the camera detects an individual lurking around a dumpster between the hours of 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. So your camera is on a schedule. Using automation, we can then send a signal to an integrated high voltage relay using integrations to turn on lights and illuminate the area. Next, a speaker playing an audio recorded message saying, "You are being recorded, you need to vacate the area, and the police have been notified." This is a very simple method of deterrence. The unknown individual has been warned that recording is in progress, and whether or not the police are actually on the way is up to you. But that gives you a little bit of extra peace of mind. So, somebody's affecting your location, and you have all of this stuff working for you automated before the first person in your organization even understands what's going on or gets the alert. You could be receiving the alert at the exact same time via these automations. Another one, we've got doors. We can have a door sensor. Door has been forced open. It's 3 in the morning. Okay, we have a PTZ in the parking lot. Let's have that zoom in on the door. Let's send an email to our security personnel. You can do all of this as part of your automation. And the last one I like to bring up, because this is one that's kind of overlooked as well, and this brings the audio part into it. This is something that I did for another customer in our Colorado region, where they have receptionists. They have a main receptionist, and they have a bunch of cashiers in a front lobby. Each of them have a panic button tied to an Axis input-output device, and there's just a simple contact button. When they push that button, the security system goes into a higher threat level, and there are microphones tied to the cameras in the lobby, and then the microphones will begin to record audio at that time. So normally, when there's no incident going on, there's no audio recording. But as soon as they see somebody that's doing something they don't like, they can hit that panic button. And they're getting alerts back to supervisors in the back office. The cameras are recording. There's an entire series of events that can be tripped, and it can be used as a panic button system. So the goal today, again, my little animation, I'm very proud of that. The goal today is the smarter, not harder. We want to prioritize the high impact and scalable solutions, and each of these pillars can be added or expanded upon as necessary. And then, as you mentioned with your infrastructure, all security pillars shine on a solid infrastructure, and its hardest portion to scale. Having this component in place should always be dealt with in your first phase, even if that means pushing more components to your second phase. And this is that part about planning out your entire system so that your infrastructure is ready to go. This means, like I said, cabling. Is it existing to the locations you want to put devices? Is it up to code? Is it Cat 5? Is it Cat 5e? Do you need to pull it out and put in some Cat 6? Power budgets. Are your network switches PoE ready and have available power budgets to support the extra hardware? Mounting locations. Are these locations accessible and able to support the security hardware you're looking at? And network bandwidth. Is your backbone connection between switches sufficient to handle the extra video streams and storage requirements? Pre-install audits and planning can save an enormous sums in both time and money by avoiding bumps in the road caused when you miss these kinds of steps. Doubling back, because I skipped over a few items on the human aspect. The human component, without a base level of awareness, many of the investments into your physical security can be circumvented. Was that back door propped open again and somebody was able to get into the building that shouldn't be there? Remember Dr. Cronin's line, physical access being total access. There are ways to mitigate some of these issues when somebody leaves a door open, like having a door sensor and having it alert when the door has been open too long. But there isn't an option for every scenario. Maintaining security is a team effort along with the technology. So, cameras. Why? Why do cameras? What do we get out of them? The main things you're looking for is deterrence, evidence and investigation, and peace of mind. Well, this is some interesting information when I was doing research for this talk, just looking up your deterrence rates. I love this. Just having outdoor cameras, up to a 50% deterrence rate. Obviously, this is based off of academic research from the UNC and Rutgers. They interviewed convicts in jail and asked, if you saw cameras, would you rob the place? And 50% of the respondents said no. And then you look at the other guys. If you're just near a police station, 64%. Indications of alarms, so just a sticker like an ADT tag on your house, 53%. Outdoor lighting, 16%, neighborhood watch, and just having, there's the ADP security sign, 25%. So security cameras by themselves, just existing, are an effective deterrent to crime. But they tend to be more effective when you paired with those other elements. So you take the cameras plus lighting, cameras plus audio for that extra deterrence level. With the evidence and investigation, being able to look back at the who, what, where, and how, and the peace of mind of knowing that should something occur, you have proof and a path of recourse. So you've decided on cameras, but where to start? Now this is where I get into cost. It's a huge consideration, as Kirk here mentioned. With a show of hands, who knows what the NDAA is? You don't count. It's your job to know that. The NDAA is the National Defense Authorization Act. Now this, before I start showing some of the stuff, is specifically towards government agencies and utilities and critical infrastructure. So some of you guys may or may not fall under these regulations, yeah? Yes, perfect, thank you. So if you receive federal or state funding, you are also beholden to NDAA compliance. And this is where it comes into cost. So NDAA compliance is legislation that impacts the physical security world. If your organization is government or critical infrastructure, or you receive funding thereof, you have specific requirements. And so the NDAA bans the use of cameras from a handful of different Chinese camera manufacturers. So there's just 3 of the camera manufacturers that I just chose to put their guys out there. One of the projects that I just did was removing a Dahua deployment at a water utility in Colorado. They had about 100 and something Dahua cameras across their entire, yes, that is a D. It took me a long time to figure that out, because when I'm trying to Google up this logo, I'm like, how do I spell this? It's a D. You'll notice that these cameras are extremely affordable, and that is intentional, right? And that's why we ban them, because they're affordable for a reason. Like, it is directly subsidized by the Chinese government. So they do not meet NDAA compliance. And I like to point that out because too many times new installations, I was looking at explosion-proof cameras for a coal mine, and they literally like, hey, I found this Hikvision camera for $1,000 on eBay. I Google it up, and it's only sold in the Middle East, and you can't technically get it here, and it's not allowed because the coal mine's critical infrastructure that receives government subsidies. So it's just a thing to be aware of. If a camera's super cheap and it looks too good to be true, it probably is. And this is a direct quote from the government. So the NDAA ban stems from concerns that these companies' products could be used by the Chinese government for surveillance, cyber attacks, or other nefarious purposes, creating a vulnerability for United States national security and data privacy. Now, moving on from the Chinese stuff, as an employee of HiPoCON, I do have an extreme bias. I love Axis cameras. I deal with them every day. And I really appreciate the feature set that they have gotten from Axis with an impressive offering of devices. And this is going to be merely an overview of the most common devices. And keep in mind that these come in an entire range of flavors and varieties. This is just a hodgepodge of the cameras that I pulled off the Axis website. And you'll see that there's a complete array. Now, like I said, every single one of these comes in a bunch of different shapes and sizes and formats, resolutions, features, you name it. And Justin can help you with that. So we've got the standard dome camera. It's really good as like a one-size-fits-all option. It's just a wonderful option. We see a lot of them these days. We got the bullet camera. It's got a higher focal length, so it's better at seeing targets further away and zooming in on like a driveway or a door. We got our panoramic camera, which can see a 360-degree view. We got our standard box camera. This is definitely you want people to see this camera. It's out there. It's in your face. We've got this guy. This is a thermal camera, so those can see temperature ranges. Those are great for watching fence lines. And I actually have one of these in an industrial setting right now in a transformer vault watching transformer lines to see if there's temperature thresholds that are met and alerting supervisors and staff to shut down. This line of cameras from Axis is probably one of the most common that I install these days. It's a multi-sensor camera, so one cable feeds 4 camera views, perfect for a pole or an external corner. This guy is just the enclosure for the box camera, so this is the outdoor variant. We have our PTZ camera, which stands for Pan Tilt Zoom, as a motorized camera that can see very far away targets. The only problem that I always recommend with those is they only record what they look at. So if you have your PTZ looking over here and there's some guy stealing a catalytic converter over here, you're not seeing it. And that's where the UFO comes into play. This is the Q6300 series camera with PTZ. So you have 4 situational awareness cameras built into the enclosure, plus a PTZ that can react to inputs from those cameras. You also have omnidirectional microphones built into the unit that can then detect noise and point the PTZ in those directions. We have our explosion-proof line, modular, and bispectrum units. You've probably seen this on the interstate, right? You see those poles every 100 miles on the side of the interstate, and there's either a PTZ or one of these on the top of it. So these guys is what the State Patrol can use to look at road conditions and actually tell you what the road's like without sending people out there. And that's just some of the camera device options. But I like to kind of cover the different types. So this is where it comes into designing your system. What do you want? What's your goal? What's your wish list? Understanding the different components. There are so many times where I see 3 of these cameras on an external corner of a building where one of these for half the cost could have done it, right? So just understanding what your requirements are and what you need to catch to try and save you money. And that also means 1 cable to that corner instead of 3. So when it comes to choosing your cameras, understanding what you're looking for, and then understanding what your zone and scene is going to be like. You want to prioritize your high traffic areas, entrances and parking lots, safety concerns, and valuable targets for your immediate impact. When it comes to a camera, you have a couple key features then to look for after you choose what you need for your model. You can use things like motion recording to motion-activated recordings to save on your storage costs and determine how long you need to retain those recordings. I think the industry standard is sitting around 3 months. It kind of fluctuates between 45 days and 90 days. We do have a customer that has a 6-month retention rate on a couple of their items, and that's like a 68 terabyte server. It's lovely. The next one is resolution. This impacts your observation and identification ranges. Zoom and enhance stays in the movies, people. This is not a thing. Zoom and enhance does not work on this. So resolution can impact how many cameras you need to cover your area depending on your needs. So if you could have 3 4K cameras cover what maybe 4 or 5 1080p cameras could cover, that's where resolution comes into play. Next, you have your night vision capabilities. Any cameras outside should always have night vision, IR capabilities, so that you can see your target unless you have appropriate lighting to make up for the difference. And then your analytics. What can your cameras do? What's baked in? What bolt-on options can you put on later? Cameras are generally considered the first line of defense, but we're going to jump to the pillar that literally is your first line of defense, access control. And that's formatted. Oh, there it is way up there. Access control. Your actual first line of defense. And it is also one of the more complicated portions of physical security. Access control serves as the first line of defense. If a bad actor is stopped at your door, you never have an incident. Access control covers everything from a standard door to vehicle gates and even elevator floor controls. And then always important is fire code and egress paths. It is hard to overstate the relevance. You need to make sure that you understand what your escape routes are in your facilities. Because if you put access control in that door, especially a magnet lock, you have some extreme stuff that you have to go through to make sure it works correctly, compared to a normal installation. During your infrastructure check, did you identify older cable that needs to be refreshed? Maybe the old cable is insufficient for current communication technologies. This is the difference between Wiegand and OSDP. The newer communication technologies have an updated wiring that makes the communication a bit more straightforward and standard, reliable. When it comes to So we have the individual components of our door control system. So we have the door controller, we have our card reader, and we have door position sensors. So whenever we're talking about door control, these are the three physical components. Badge technology. This is something that I very specifically included because I mentioned Wiegand before. Does anybody know the words Wiegand or prox when it comes to access control? Please get rid of them. Wiegand is a compromised technology. Prox is a compromised technology. They are very old. OSTP is a newer communication format that uses encryption to help secure your end-to-end. Pen testers and criminals alike will use this tool here. Anybody ever heard of a Flipper Zero? This is $200 for this thing. $200. Check out this video, what this guy can do for $200.
So I got a key card reader over here, so I'm going to tap that. You'll see it turns green. And then I got this. Does not work. So what I'm going to do is I shall read this. And then all I got to do is go ahead and I'm going to write it to this key card here. And now, boom, I can go there as many times as I want.
This is a 20-second video of your badge getting compromised. So some guy at Starbucks could be like, oh, sorry, hey, you dropped your badge, here you go. That's about them. You know, by the time he's handed that to you, he could have cloned your badge. So this is older badge technologies. So my hotel key card uses a technology called MyFair Ultralight. It still can be cloned, but requires additional steps. What he has to do is scan the hotel badge and then put the flipper into learning mode. He has to go scan the hotel reader, and then he can then reprogram the badge and make it work. And then he can use this device as his badge. So he can just take a badge, clone it really quickly, and then just go use this device to emulate your card. That's even with more modern technologies. So using more secure badge technologies in your environment can prevent bad actors from doing some very simple attacks like this. Special thanks to Raganet for his YouTube channel for this cute little clip. There are several options when it comes to your hardware and software. I'll always recommend tying your cameras and access control together into one system. Again, Johnny, he's just keep losing his badge. With proper awareness and training, Johnny reported that his badge was missing, and your system operator marked it as lost or stolen. Let's assume Johnny found his badge again but didn't tell anybody. And when he went to go use the badge again, he wasn't allowed in the building, and you as the operator got an alert that the lost badge was used. Now you can go back into the system and see the timestamp along with image and video of the person holding that badge. Imagine if this was a bad actor that had actually stolen a badge. You now have that data and actionable intelligence for law enforcement. User awareness is a constant. And make sure to tell Johnny he needs to properly report that he found his badge next time. And then this happened at a customer site. I had a contractor badge for a secure location. I dropped it out while walking the site, and I immediately reported it to security and then went back and looked for the badge. We ended up finding it about 45 minutes of retracing our steps, and I went back to security again. It's like, all right, it's back in my hands. We can reactivate the badge. He was very surprised that we did that. A lot of his staff doesn't even do that. On hardware, these are generally tailored to your needs. This guy right here is an Axis A1210. You can get it in Axis flavor or Genetec flavor. This is a single door controller unit that is PoE capable. So if you have a PoE friendly strike and a low amperage reader, you can run an entire door off of PoE. If you need more, maybe you've got a 15 door setup, you need something like this, or even Axis's new 1810 system can do 8 doors. But this is a Mercury board enclosure with a life safety power, and that's 15 doors. So a lot of the hardware can be tailored to your needs. Sometimes I'll do a mixture of both, depending on the requirements. A lot of these days, I do prefer the Axis product because it is a lot easier to teach my engineers on how to install it. Locking hardware. There are a ton of options. There are a ton of brands. There are a ton of brands under one brand. ASA Abloy is one of our primary vendors we go through for locking hardware. And this is HES. This is just one line of hardware. And these are also tailored to your needs. Do you have crash bars that need to retract themselves? Do you have cabinet locks? Maybe you just need a rim strike device. Again, tailored to your needs for each unique door. Shoot into audio. Access control sets pillar 2 into place, and now we'll amplify the site security with your audio portion. Speakers acting as audio deterrents and warnings, like vacate now, via automations. Adding another level to the sense is just the next building block in your security. Here's a paraphrased excerpt from Access's website. Network audio adds value to your video-based security system, helping you proactively deter crime by responding and intervening with pre-recorded or live messages. You can set up your system to trigger pre-recorded messages in response to potential criminal activity or to notify an operator or guard to speak directly to the culprit. Either way, there's a good chance you'll send potential loiterers and offenders hurrying away. You can also use pre-recorded or live messages to safely and reliably deliver crucial safety information and instructions in the case of an emergency. There's so many features. Like right now, if I had a system with audio, I could pull open my phone and see, hey, somebody's messing with maybe my front door of my house. I actually have that on my phone. I have an intercom. I have an Access intercom on the front door of my house. And so if somebody rings the doorbell, I can have two-way conversations with them right now, just with having that audio level of addition. And then you have the other option, utilize modern PoE audio to streamline integration. So all Access products are IP-based PoE speakers, and there's no need for an amplifier. There's no need for analog speaker wire. It's all IP-based, and it's all in your network. That horn is capable of 121 decibels. I have one of the little guys at my little setup on the main hall, and that can do 110, the little mini speaker? Or is it?
108.
What?
C-14?
Yeah.
108.
108? So that's 108 decibels on the little guy. So we're doing right now a plan for a zoo customer of ours in Colorado. We're going to be doing about 30 of the sound projectors across the entire site to use for ambient music and alerts and paging for the entire place. So anytime like, hey, little Johnny's missing, we need to make a page so that he can get back to mom, that's what they're going to be utilizing the system for in an outdoor environment. We also have the ability to have the paging console with the gooseneck microphone. I know you have one of these at your station. I want to play with that because that's a cool thing.
It doesn't have the gooseneck, but yeah.
So this is a programmable paging station that you can set to page your audio zones that you program. The other part of audio is recording and microphones. Bringing audio recording into your system, either using cameras with integrated microphones or adding them to an existing installation. A microphone gives you an audio transcript to go along with your video, providing accurate incident tracking. You also have the capabilities of doing two-way audio then when you add a proper microphone. The important thing to note here, again, just like fire codes, is compliance and code. Federal one-party consent covers 35 states plus DC, meaning that if you as the system owner or operator, only you need to be aware that audio and video recording is in progress. Be aware of your local state regulations during your design process, and if you must, post signs for implied consent. And consult with legal teams if you're still questioning. We do have this issue in Colorado. It is a single-party consent state, but some of our governmental entities that we do work for require that they do postings for audio recordings in lobbies and other spaces, especially when it comes to employee as well. And if you deal with unions, you'd have to work with them as well to see what your capabilities are. Both Genetec and Access integrate seamlessly with their audio devices. You can always start with a lobby speaker or a security safety speaker in the back of your building and add microphones for immediate returns. Audio warns and informs. Automation controls how all of this works together. Both Access and Genetec have what's known as a trigger and action economy. They're called action rules in Access. I think they're just called automation in Genetec, or event to action. You have the grand system. Now it's time to automate. X trigger occurs, execute Y commands. You'll see in that demo board, I have it on the floor, there's a bunch of things that happen. I have a badge that's marked lost in the system. If I scan it, all of a sudden it's playing alert messages on the PC. It's flashing a red light over here. All of those are automations built in to help increase your capabilities as a system owner and operator. Some simple examples of triggers when it comes to a door. Was the door forced open? Was the door held open too long? Was a lost or stolen badge used to try and open the door? You have things known as duress pins, so you can give somebody 2 different pin codes if you have pin pads. One opens the door normally, but if the duress pin is used, it'll still open the door, but now you can send unique alerts off to somebody. So at the end, so somebody's under duress and being forced to open the door opens normally and they're fine. It preserves that employee's safety. But now you have critical people notified that something's up. When it comes to a camera, simple things like, was motion detected? Was a particular object identified? Is your device overheating? Maybe there was scene changes, vandalism, dirtiness. I've had cameras got hit by paintball. This wasn't an Axis system, and so we didn't know until after an entire pallet of industrial batteries was stolen. If we had had an Axis camera with the scene monitor on there, we would have gotten an alert within a few minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes, instead of finding out in the morning. Other alerts, is your storage for full? And then examples of actions. We can send an email with the snapshots of what's going on. You can, in your email, include standard operating procedures. So if this event occurs that requires certain paperwork or response actions to be taken, you can include that in your email. Push notifications to a mobile app. If you have your mobile app set up and you have your individuals configured to receive those notifications. And like I mentioned before, we can move a PTZ to a preset position. That piece of hardware is affected and needs to be looked at. Or maybe those auxiliary outputs to other systems when I'm talking about integrations. The sky is the limit. When it comes to the automation, just about anything you can come up with is probably doable. So automation handles routine and the day-to-day, and integration brings us that last level. I've got a couple of our third-party integrations up here. The City of Pueblo with their real-time crime center, that video you saw, they have Brink drones, ShotSpotter, and Evolve all tied into their Genetec system. So like they said, that drone, 60 to 90 seconds anywhere in the city. And we have like 400 cameras across the city for the City of Pueblo. I've done a vast majority of the installations and configuration for those cameras. And they'll see through ShotSpotter, maybe some shots happened in an area of town they don't have a camera. The operators can immediately make that drone take off and go check out the scene and see what's going on before they send officers into danger. And then we have our auxiliary camera, door, and input-output devices. You have your industrial control systems. You have sensors, buttons, and lights. Pretty much every Axis device has programmable inputs and outputs that you can just attach a button. Maybe a recording LED, maybe a volume controller on your speaker. You can add all of these via these IOs that are very often missed. Like, don't know it's there. What do you know? What are you thinking you're going to do if you don't know it's there? Sensors. There's capabilities of bringing in sensors. Some of the I/O modules support some standard formats for serial to bring in temperature sensors and moisture sensors. The buttons, you'll see on my demo board, I've got a button sitting next to that strobe light. That's hooked up directly to the strobe light's input, and then that'll trigger one of the profiles on there to play that light pattern. And then lighting as well. That's where you control your outputs from the system into a high voltage relay. Then you can control lighting and other aspects. So we have automation and integration, and then there's one kind of component that bridges both of those topics. And it is literally the boogeyman of our age, and somebody would absolutely ask about it during the Q&A. AI. It is often an overused and seldom fully realized term. Yes, AI is definitely making headway into physical security, and a lot of the automation I have discussed so far relies on some of those AI components. More and more, we are going to see these AI elements used in our daily lives, but it may not be called AI anymore. Axis, for example, they have a built-in system to pretty much any new camera called Object Analytics. This is an application based on the piece of hardware that is specifically designed to analyze what it's looking at. It can identify humans, it can identify vehicles, it can identify the color of the vehicle. Maybe it sees that I'm wearing a gray top and khaki bottoms. Those are searchable items inside Axis, all based off of its AI analytics capabilities. You can do things like line crossing, people counting. I've got one of the cameras on my board is counting how many people are in its scene. All of these are AI components that are already in the system, but they're just not called AI anymore, right? The term is becoming superfluous. So when it comes to AI, expect more. Expect a lot more to come. There's a couple other third-party integrations that use AI for fire detection, for smoke detection. Axis is working on PPE detection. So is your operator wearing a hard hat in a safety zone where he's supposed to be? Some of those things are just the newest things coming down the line.
Soon to be high vis.
That, I know a lot of people that want that. So, where do you get started? We have the 3 steps of really getting started here. We have to assess your needs and desires. You want to select your core components and plan for scalability. Those are your 3 components. Start small with a high-impact solution, 1 or more cameras at the main entrance and maybe a critical door or 2. And then always consider your fire code and other compliance options. Book a site assessment, test a camera. I've been known to install a couple proof of concept cameras and some more unique situations, and that can be tested before a wider deployment. And come talk to me out on the floor. I'd love to answer any other questions you have. This is the part where I was going to show my little video about the Real-Time Crime Center, tying it all together, which you saw the video. But I have a little bit of a blurb here. So HiPoCON Networks has helped many customers move from 5 cameras to hundreds of cameras. This phased approach is how we accomplished the Real-Time Crime Center with the city of Pueblo. We started with the video wall. We started with a couple Genetec servers. And we have gone from, I think we started at like 30 cameras, and now we're pushing 300. We've helped the city with the 10-foot video wall. So just recently, actually, we installed some new cameras. It was another phase. We're bringing another park online. And a week after we put the cameras up, they were able to make an arrest. So what had happened is spotter identified a shot that went off near the park. Dispatch was able to take control of one of the PTZ cameras and look in that direction. And they saw 2 individuals sitting in a vehicle, drinking alcohol and smoking weed. When the officers arrived, they found 2 Glocks with scratched-off serial numbers, extended magazines, and copious amounts of alcohol and weed in the car. And they were both already felons that weren't supposed to have firearms. So literally a week after we put this camera in, the combination of ShotSpotter, PTZs, and a real-time crime center made that arrest. So that's what I have. I have my Q&A here. I like to make special acknowledgments. Napkin AI for making my graphs. You know, I mentioned AI is becoming a part of our life. I use Grok for editing. And Nicholas Everett is my systems engineer out of Bismarck. He helped me a lot with that display board out there.